I just solo traveled around Chile for a month, and you are about to experience everything I saw from the perspective of a 30-something-year-old flashpacker, heading back to one of my favorite destinations in the world, with some interesting tips along the way. This long and narrow strip of fire and ice took me to destinations that looked like this and like this, was the setting for one hell of an adventure. After months of preparation, it was time to set foot on the plane, and the rest, well, you'll see about that. Arrived in Santiago, and oh my god, that was a long journey. It was a 14-hour flight, but we are here in Santiago. I am so excited about this trip. We're going to the Atacama, we're gonna go to the Elqui Valley. I mean, it is going to be all kinds of epic. But for today, a street art tour in Santiago, and I've never actually been to Santiago before, even though I've been to Chile, both to the north and to the south. So I'm going to spend some time over the next couple of days exploring the city. The city is a bit rough around the edges, but don't skip it. There are some really cool spots if you know where to look. If you know me, you know that I'm obsessed with the local street art scenes when I travel, and Santiago was no exception. Neighborhoods like Bella Vista and Barrio Yungay were teeming with street art, and I hooked up with a local guide, Alejandro, who told me about the history and the fascinating stories behind the murals that you see in the neighborhoods. I'd also recommend spending some time filling up at Galindo, a spot that Alejandro recommended as one of his favorite local eats. You have to try the pastel de choclo, a filling combination of creamed corn, meat, veggies underneath a mashed potato top, and really and truly it's one of the typical Chilean dishes, and it was absolutely stunning. Centro for sightseeing opportunities. Now, Centro might not have the cool chic of areas like La Estaria, but it does have some of the city's most important sites, like the Plaza de Armas and the cathedral. Now, the cathedral might not look like much from the outside, but inside it's a Gothic meets Baroque extravaganza. After, make a beeline for Chile's Museum of Pre-Columbian Art. It is really incredible. Spread out over several levels, the museum takes you on a fascinating journey through the lives of the pre-Columbian peoples of South America. Santiago is also a great base for day trips, and of course I was going to make the most of that during my time in the city, and so I headed to the wine valleys of the Maipo Valley and Casablanca Valley, as well as taking a day trip to the colourful port city of Valparaíso. Right, today I'm in the Maipo Valley, the Isla de Maipo, and we are at Santa Emma, and this is a really cool vineyard. Absolutely epic buildings. It's so contemporary, really cool. And we're just gonna go and do a tasting. So, I mean, this is vineyard 2 of 3 tastings and lunch. I'm really ready because Chilean wine is just chef's kiss. It was time to leave Santiago for a bit anyway, and to head to the Atacama Desert for a chance to see some of the most incredible landscapes and stargazing you'll see anywhere in the world. I highly recommend grabbing a flight from Santiago to Calama, which is the nearest airport to the Atacama Desert. It's about an hour's drive. It costs about £100 to fly, and the flight takes, I think, around 2 hours, as opposed to a bus which takes almost 23 hours. I have done some South American buses, they are pretty cozy, but those trip lengths really do add up. Well, I've made it to the Atacama Desert, and I am so excited. Like I said, whenever people ask me where my favourite place is that I've travelled to, honestly, this area, the Altiplano area, which is split between Chile, Bolivia and Argentina, is just the place that I always say, and specifically the Atacama. I came here in 2016 and literally mind blown, so it's great to be back. I'm not gonna lie, I really pushed the boat out from my hotel stay in the Atacama, and I stayed at Nayara Alto Atacama. I booked an option which meant I had a private driver and guide for the whole of my time in the Atacama. This is not hosted, not sponsored, I paid for this. It was a far cry from my last trip to the Atacama, where John and I hired a camper van and spent the next week driving around and just bopping around and camping pretty much wherever underneath the sky. That was incredible. but also going with a guide this time who knew the destinations like the back of his hand, as well as the history behind them, was an eye-opening experience, and really meant that I had full access to the stories and the tales behind the different destinations, as well as being able to just see the incredible landscapes. Now that I was here, it was time to get straight into the Jeep. Okay.
Okay. In Chile also is historically talking, especially the northern area, when it's localized the Atacama Desert.
And head to a destination that I'd never actually been to before, which is Laguna Sajar. This was a crazy experience that I was so hyped to try. Floating in the salty environs of the Sajar Lagoon is a one-off adventure. You strip down to your swimmers and hop in to experience the crazy buoyancy of the salt water. I'm here at Sajar Laguna, and look at these views. It is absolutely incredible. We've got it to ourselves at the moment, and the views are amazing. You can see the volcanoes, the salt flat, and of course the amazing Sajar. Now this is a really cool spot because the water is super salty and you float. Like, you literally just float. It feels so weird. My top tip though is to make sure that you don't get any into your eyes, because that stuff stings. Oh my god, I'm telling you from experience, do not do it. Throughout the next couple of days we trucked around the whole of the Atacama region, and I'm going to be doing videos on both my time in the Atacama Desert as well as the El Tatio geysers. Spoiler alert, both were incredible. Like, the whole area is incredible. In El Tatio, I had the chance to see the sunrise over the biggest geyser field in the southern hemisphere. Well guys, isn't this the morning? We are here at El Tatio geysers and got here for the sunrise. The sun is rising. I have my camera behind me doing a gorgeous time lapse, and oh my god, this place is just spectacular. And when you see the change in temperature at this time, you come at the sunrise, because the change in temperature means that the geysers and the fumaroles are at their most active. But look at this spectacular view. And yes, that was exactly as incredible as it sounds. We're hitting the road and we are heading to the high altiplano lakes, and these are going to be some of the most insane sceneries that we're going to see on this trip. It's going to be amazing. We're going up to 4,000 meters, so let's go and see, because I think this is going to be really cool. Our adventures also took us to mind-blowing destinations like the Piedras Rojas, which is a series of undulating red rocks on the backdrop, against the backdrop of a mineral blue lake and crazily coloured volcanoes, like purple volcanoes with like flashes of pink. It is absolutely a kaleidoscopic dream that just doesn't look real. As well as, we also went to Camur, a much quieter alternative to the crazy but beautiful Valle de la Luna. Recognize the crazy rock formations in Camur? That's because it was actually used as a filming location for The Mandalorian. Fact. Oh yeah, and did I mention the stargazing? Straight up incredible. Seeing the Milky Way laid out like a pathway to the universe was just an unforgettable experience. So it's the last day in the Atacama here with Alto, and it has been spectacular. Just finishing off with cheese and wine in the middle of the Atacama Desert. Look at that. Sun is setting. This is absolutely fantastic. What an experience. I did take a cheeky little side quest to Bolivia for 5 days, and there'll be a video on that, but here is a sneak preview. Before heading back to the Atacama for one more night, and then hopping on a plane, heading to a destination I'd never been to before in Chile, the Elqui Valley. All right. So there was one reason, and one reason alone, why I really wanted to come to the Elqui Valley, and that is to do some more stargazing. You know, I had such an amazing time in the Atacama, and this was the other destination that I really wanted to come to, because it also has supposedly some amazing clear night skies and some really cool observatories. So that's exactly what I'm going to do this evening. I'm heading to an observatory, we're going to see the night skies, and fingers crossed also photograph the stars. I've always been curious about the Elqui Valley, and it's really hard not to be when the words like mysterious, supernatural and mystical are bandied about when people are describing it. And perhaps it's the whispers of UFOs or the astronomers who go and see the stars. I based myself in the charming town of Vicuña and set to work. My top recommendation is to go stargazing at Centro Astronómico Aldea. This features an incredible set of guided tours, and it's just outside of Vicuña. It's a small group setting where you get access to telescopes, a 3D video tour where you get to adventure around the night sky with a glass of wine in your hand. Hooray for that. I was definitely nosy enough to want to see the hidden petroglyphs at Centro Magnetico Piedra del Guanaco, and this was one of the spots that my guide told me about that actually not that many people know about in the Elqui Valley, a set of petroglyphs left by ancient civilizations. Now, I'm not weighing in on the age-old debate between Peru and Chile about who created pisco, the celebrated liquor that goes into those very tasty pisco sours that you know and love. But there is a town called Pisco Elqui in the Elqui Valley, and of course I was gonna go and try one of the piscos at one of the local distilleries, which is exactly what I did. And I went Fundo Los Nichos and went on a distillery tour, which took me around, talked me through the whole process of the making of pisco, and then of course it was time for some of the drinking of pisco. And it was back to Santiago, but before I flew home I had one more trick up my sleeve, and that was a dinner at Borago, one of the best restaurants in not only in South America but also in the whole world. Of course I was gonna book a table there. Now I have to be honest, it takes a lot for me to really sit up and pay attention when it comes to a meal. Dinner at Borago did exactly that. Like, course after course came out. It was spectacular. Like, they played on the different senses. There were textures, there were like bold pops of food using local and niche ingredients that come from very specific parts of Chile. Meant that it was a meal that you really couldn't get anywhere else in the world. And it was just a really fantastic experience, and of course the perfect way to finish off my solo trip to Chile. I said I'd be doing more videos from this trip, so make sure that you subscribe and hit the notifications button. I'm Juliana from the Discoveries of Keep Discovering, and I'll see you in the next adventure.